Hey guys, so I want to talk about a topic that is kind of it's been on my mind a little bit lately. It's about communicating. So I know that we've got a lot of people in our field who are trying to become better, copywriters. And because copywriting, is the number one skill to learn in marketing and all that stuff. And sorry, trying to get this positioned nicely. It's the number one skill to learn in marketing, and or so it's said. And most of the people trying to do this, they're trying to do a better job of copy or trying to learn to copyright. They're going about it all wrong, for one, and for two, they didn't have any formal or didn't do very well in the formal parts of learning how to do writing in school or whatever. And this is one of those areas where, for all those people who like to rag on formal education and college degrees and college and so on, I think that this is an area where they're wrong. Because before you start learning, and then I've seen some appalling stuff. Like I know we put out some, I was recruiting writers or people, interns to do writing for me. And I looked at some of the pieces that were submitted, and honest to God, some of the stuff is like, are you like seriously, like who told you that you have any shot of writing at all for anybody? Honestly, it was so bad. And I think that, the problem is that people are trying to learn all these techniques. They want to jump ahead. They want to get to the part where, we want to get to the good stuff. It's kind of like the, when Daniel San was trying to learn from Mr. Miyagi all the cool kicks and punches and stuff from karate, and Mr. Miyagi was not having any of it because he wanted to show him the foundations. And I think that the foundations are super important. The foundations of communication are really important. So I'm going to give you a real quick crash course in how I think you should approach your writing. And I hope that this would help you to write substantially better pieces of writing. So the first thing that you have to be able to do is you got to understand everything needs to have a point. So start out with knowing what your point is, okay? Start out with knowing what it is that you want to get across. What's your big idea? This is called the thesis statement, your big idea. So just write that down in note form, okay? Just a bullet. Now, I had this really good advice. So if you come from the British education tradition, unlike in the American system where you tend to do a lot of multi-choice type of questions, in the British education system, you're asked often to write essays. So you get these essay questions. You're asked to write an essay on this topic. So whatever the subject might be, I once did, for instance, a business class called Business and New Zealand Society or something like that. One of those, 101 type courses. And we were given our final exam was, which I aced, by the way, although I didn't do so well on the other parts of it. But the final exam I did really well on, and I don't usually, I'm not really good at tests. That's just like not really the area I tend to do well in. But I had some really good advice from I can't remember which of my teachers, but I remember it was really good advice that one of my teachers had given us about how to approach these essay questions. So, while most people would sit there and just try to say as much as they can about a topic, it'll be like, they'll be asked a question, explain what the benefits of, or discuss Henry Ford's, model of business, blah, 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 from, in terms of such and such aspect of New Zealand Society or something like that. I mean, something, whatever. I can't really think of a really good example from there. But basically, what you would need to do is to show your understanding of the background, the theoretical background, and then actually synthesize that into a coherent argument. To give a viewpoint, something that we did this in multiple subjects, not just in obviously in business classes. We even had to do essay questions in some of the sciences as well. So the advice I was given was rather than just sit there and try to write out a whole bunch of stuff and just say whatever, you needed to start out by writing out bullets of just the things that you are, just your main points. Just think about okay, so what are the main highlights, the main things I want to say about this topic, and you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you list them out right at the beginning of the essay. And so because the essay, these essay type exams could be made up of 3 essays. So that's the entire exam. That's your final exam. You took the whole course. And now at the end of the course, 50% of your grade comes from answering these questions with an essay. And so they would tell you, there'd be 3 questions. If you run out of time while writing the first essay, then you've probably failed the test. So the teacher told us, write down bullets of your main ideas on each of the questions, because if you end up not running out of time, not being able to finish the essays, you would have hit the main points that we were looking for, and you are likely to get a pretty close, you would probably get most of the marks. So that was really, really good advice, because that's what I used to ace this test that I would have, normally I was not very good at taking tests. And this was a subject that I had literally not done much study on throughout the semester. So there I was, I had basically 3 days to prepare, and it's a theoretical heavy subject. And I went in and I used this technique. I just wrote out my bullets first of all the main points that I was going to say on each, and then I spent the rest of the time expanding those bullets out into my essay. And so when I did, and I can't remember if I did run out of time, but if I did run out of time, I would have got the full grades for that. And this is really great advice for writing literally anything. You want to start out with your main point, because everything needs to have an objective. And then what you want to do is expand on that main point with, I would suggest, depending on what kind of writing you're writing for. So let's say it's an email. I would suggest no more than 3. So you've got your one big idea, and then there's 3 main points on that one big idea. No more than 3. I think it becomes a bit too long beyond 3. And if it's, you can apply this to anything. If you're writing a book, if you're writing a sales letter, any kind of writing that you're going to write, if you would just bullet out your main points first, and then look at before you start to write, you want to look at your main points and figure out if they are distinct, right? So you want to make sure that they're not too close to each other, that they're not really different, that they are not really 2 different points, but rather one point where you've just, it's an elaboration rather than a distinct point. You need to have 3 distinct separate points that are, that when you look at them, okay, they are here's the 3 reasons why. And this is why a lot of the copywriting training sort of, because it's not grounded in a lot of theory. It's just a lot of gut instinct type of stuff. Will tell you, the stuff where you're you take, the 3 lists do really well, because, well, yeah, of course they do well, because those are typically with lists. You're highlighting, a number, the five best things, or the 5 tricks that you can use to get rid of arthritis pain, for instance. Well, yeah, I mean, you've got 5 distinct ideas, and then you're expanding on those. That's basically what that is. So it has a point. it has a point, and that point is broken down into 5 sub-points. And then those 5 sub-points are expanded upon. And this is another secret, another trick that I had that I learned. This one's from my father. Basically, if you look at any kind of discourse structure, we're talking from the smallest level, which is like the even the phrase level, the sentence level, going up to the paragraph level, to the section, to the chapter, to the book level, right? All the way up to the highest, from the lowest to the highest levels, right? The most detailed. You have 2 parts to everything. There's the point, and then there's elaboration. Okay, so basically, let's start as something as simple as I want to tell you a piece of information, and I say the boy went. Okay, so the boy went is the point, right? Now, what I want to, now you're asking, well, went where? Well, okay, so now I can say he went to school. The boy went to school. So that is a little detail. This detail that I've just added is called elaboration, right? So we've got the point, the boy, and then, the boy went. He did something. The boy did something, basically. That's what it's saying. He went somewhere. Where? That's the elaboration. He went to school, all right? And then you might elaborate further. So anything extra now is just adding flesh on that original point, right? So the boy who lived down the lane, the dark-haired boy, the boy whose name was Jack, or whatever, went walking to school, rode his bike to school. He went to school on his bike. These are all elaboration. We've said nothing new. We've given some extra texture to the original information, but that piece of information that the boy went is the core, it's the nucleus of the whole thing. And then everything else beyond that it just adds texture. And that is what we call elaboration. Now, you can elaborate as long as you like on it. You can give a lot more detail. But what you can do then is to start to group your bits of detail, right? So perhaps it is a sequence of events that you're describing. So if you had 5 events in your sequence, then you would bullet out those events. He went to school, then he met with his friend, and then he they ate lunch together, or whatever. They decided to skip school together, and so on. So you got your 5 points, and then you can, once you've put those 5 points out, then what you're going to do to those is expand on them. So let's move past the sentence structure, right? So the next level is a paragraph, right? So you have, typically in a paragraph, you have what's known as a topic sentence. Now, formally, the topic sentence begins the piece. The paragraph. It's not always, but it's typically the first sentence in a paragraph. And then the paragraph ends when that idea has been elaborated upon. So you got your topic sentence, then you got 1, 2, 3 sentences of elaboration, right? And typically, a good paragraph structure would also have what's known as a conclusion or a reiteration of the topic sentence. So it's just another way of saying the topic sentence now that you know all the details. And this forms a proper paragraph that communicates an idea, a distinct idea, clearly. And then you move on to the next level up, where you're now talking about, let's say, a section as being a collection of paragraphs, right? So a section begins with typically an introductory paragraph, or several introductory paragraphs, right? And then you have the elaboration is basically the section's body. It's everything that you say about this one, major topic, right? And then there's the conclusion, which sums up everything that you've said so far. And it sort of ties that idea neatly into a bundle. And this goes on to the next level. You got the chapter level. So you got the introductory chapter. Typically in a book, you'd have, or a longer piece, You typically have like an introductory chapter or an introductory section which introduces the rest of the material. And again, that is that's the nucleus, and then there's elaboration that follows, and then a nice book would have a nice conclusion at the end to sort of reiterate the things that you have already said. So this is like a really simple thing that you can follow, simple pattern that you could follow to just communicate better overall. Start out with your point, your major point, right? Bullet out your sub-points that prove or establish truth or credibility to your original point. Figure out that they are distinct and they are strong points, that they are good points that actually make sense before you start to actually put pen to paper and start to write. Arrange them in an intelligent order. And then once you've done that, you expand on those things, and you'll find that it just writes itself at that point. Like you're writing whatever it is, it just ends up writing itself. So, you know, I've seen these people who come to me with like an email, for example. For some reason, they've decided that it is a technique to write each sentence on one line. That paragraphs should be made up of one line each or something. And I don't understand, like, who taught you that? A paragraph is supposed to be a combination of related ideas, right? Now, I do break this rule when I actually write for marketing, because I try to, because it is not a formal, typically I'm not writing formal writing. And so I break the rule because I'm just creating gaps, pauses. But that is not to say that I haven't actually, originally they were paragraphs that were then broken out into, like, it was a long paragraph. I'm like, okay, that's not an easy paragraph to read, let's split it. If you find yourself, for instance, here's another thing, if you find yourself writing a really long sentence that's really complicated, typically a good idea would be to split it, and you can find a way to split that into two sentences. If you would just look for, okay, so where does one idea, like, how does this naturally split into two different, two separate ideas? Once you've broken that sentence up into two pieces, it just becomes a really clear, much more clear sentence than one that's really, really long. So this is just like a really, I think it's a basic crash course, basically, in how to write more effectively. No copywriting techniques, no special tricks, nothing really, magic about any of this. But it allows you to really, you'll find that it will make a huge difference in your writing, and in your communication and your ability to sell. Because if you are clear in what you're saying, then people are more likely to respond. So get your ideas clear. Don't do this nonsense where you think that writing is just, I'm just going to sit here and write whatever comes to mind. I mean, you could talk out your ideas, for example, into a voice note or something, if that helps you to get your ideas organized. But then when you come to sit down and put something on paper, bullet it out first. Write out bullets. Okay, put down your bullets and then expand those bullets. You'll find it so much easier to write that way than to just try to, make it up as you go, because that's not how writing, that's not how good communication is done. Okay, so yeah, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know your thoughts, and if you try it out, let me know how it works out for you. Maybe even share what you have written. Love to see it.